The Ozarks cover a lot of ground: Missouri, Arkansas, and out to the edge of Oklahoma. The region built towns the usual way, along rivers, around rail lines, around the things people needed to survive. Some of those towns are still standing, some are not. Some are under 40 feet of water. 6 separate communities in Arkansas went under a single reservoir in the 1940s. An entire county seat in Missouri was burned and flooded by a private power company. The man who helped broker that deal was convicted of fraud 2 years after the water rose. The lake that replaced the county seat now has over 1,000 miles of shoreline. People boat directly above the old courthouse every summer without knowing it. These are 17 of the places in the Ozark Mountains that locals would rather not discuss. One claims a population of 1 coon dog, according to a sign that is still on the property. Another, a town of 51 people, once generated a 60-person petition asking the internet to please stop visiting. Stay for number 1. That entry has a number attached to it. The number is 42. Once you understand what 42 refers to, it becomes difficult to set down. This channel covers forgotten geography and uncomfortable history. Subscribe if that sounds like your thing. Today we are counting down 17 of the creepiest places in the Ozark Mountains that locals refuse to talk about. Number 17. Booger Hollow Trading Post, Pope County, Arkansas. The name started it. Early settlers found a valley in the Arkansas hills running between 2 cemeteries and decided it must be haunted. Booger is a Welsh-derived word for the bogeyman. The name followed the hollow for generations. In 1961, an entrepreneur borrowed that name for a trading post on Scenic Highway 7, 12 miles from the actual Booger Hollow, on a hilltop nowhere near a cemetery. He posted countdown signs along the highway. Booger Hollow, 10 miles. Booger Hollow, 9 miles. At the entrance, population 7, count in 1 coon dog. The main draw was a 2-story outhouse, the upper level permanently locked. Its door carried a sign. Upstairs closed till we figure out plumbing. The trading post ran 43 years. In 2004, the property sold. The new owners never reopened. The outhouse is still visible from the highway. The plumbing problem was never resolved. Number 16. Yellville, Marion County, Arkansas. Every October since 1946, a low-flying aircraft has circled the Marion County Courthouse Square. The pilot drops live turkeys from approximately 500 feet. Wild turkeys can glide short distances between trees. They are not designed for this. For more than 70 years, the identity of the Phantom pilot was never disclosed. The FAA investigated and concluded its regulations contain no explicit prohibition against dropping live animals from aircraft. PETA offered a $5,000 reward in 2011. The Chamber of Commerce withdrew sponsorship by 2018. The pilot operated independently for at least another year and appears to have gone quiet around 2019. The Turkey Trot Festival continues. It includes a Miss Turkey Trot pageant with a Miss Drumsticks division, in which contestants are judged solely on the appearance of their legs. 70+ years. Federal review. A $5,000 bounty. No arrest, no name, no identity. That is the tradition that survived. Number 15. Newport, Arkansas, and the White River Monster. In 1973, Arkansas State Senator Robert Harvey sponsored Senate Resolution 23. It created the White River Monster Refuge and Sanctuary, along a defined stretch of the river between 2 named points. Inside those boundaries, it is illegal to harm, harass, or disturb the creature. No physical specimen of that creature has ever been recovered, no photograph, no bones, no biological sample. The Arkansas legislature extended legal protection to an animal that science has not confirmed exists. Sightings date to 1950. The most documented came July 1st, 1937, when plantation owner Bramlett Bateman signed a sworn affidavit describing something as wide as a car and 3 cars long with the hide of an elephant. Newport shut its doors for the day. A Navy diver searched a silt-filled eddy wearing a helmet fashioned from a Model T gas tank. He found nothing. More than 100 sightings were recorded across the 20th century. A 2018 scientific review proposed the most plausible candidate: a stray manatee. The refuge remains active. The creature remains protected. Arkansas made it illegal to harm something it cannot describe, weigh, or confirm is there. Number 14. The Ozark Howler. Reports of something large and dark have come from the remote hills of Arkansas and Missouri since at least the 1800s. Descriptions are consistent: bear-sized, dark-furred, with horns and red eyes, and a howl that sounds like a wolf crossed with an elk. Other animals go quiet before it passes. This story has 2 layers, and they need to be kept separate. The first is genuine. Ozark folklore carries a long tradition of black demon animals, likely rooted in legends that Scotch-Irish settlers brought from the British Isles. Accounts from the 1840s exist. Research compiled by author Jason Offutt indicates Daniel Boone encountered something matching the description in Missouri in the early 1800s. The second layer is a documented hoax. A University of Arkansas student in the 1990s fabricated a series of Howler reports as a bet to test the credulity of the cryptozoological research community. He succeeded. Those fake accounts are now indistinguishable from the older ones. What is confirmed? Between 2005 and 2010, a family north of Van Buren set up trail cameras in the Boston Mountains after repeated sightings. The footage appears to show a large cougar. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission says there is no breeding cougar population in the state. The commission still receives emergency calls about it. Number 13. End of fisting. Windyville, Dallas County, Missouri, 51 people. That was Windyville's population as of the 2010 census. The town sits at the crossroads of Routes K and MM, 4 miles from Bennett Spring. At its height, it had 3 churches, 2 grist mills, a tomato cannery, a post office. The cannery produced 96,000 cans of tomatoes in a single 1925 season. The high school consolidated with Buffalo around 1965. The town has been emptying ever since. Ghost stories circulated online through the 1990s. By 2005, USA Today had featured Windyville in a travel section, screams from the old cannery, a horseback rider at Lone Rock Cemetery, children's laughter from places where no children live. Visitors arrived after dark, some of them drunk, wandering the cemeteries. In 2007, approximately 60 residents of this 51-person town signed a petition asking Legends of America to remove their page on Windyville. The page was removed. The stories remained on dozens of other websites and grew. Here's the thing. That town generated 60 signatures from a community of 51. Either some people counted multiple times, or former residents felt strongly enough to sign from wherever they had moved. Neither version makes Windyville feel less strange. Number 12. Avila, Jasper County, Missouri. Avila sits on what used to be Route 66, 10 miles east of Carthage. Founded 1856, platted 1858, 4th oldest settlement in Jasper County. The 2020 census population is 103. During the Civil War, southwestern Missouri ran Confederate, while Avila held Union sympathies. On March 8, 1862, a force of guerrillas believed to include men operating under William T. Tia. Bloody Bill Anderson attacked a local physician's home. The town fought back. The violence left its mark on more than the buildings. Avila's tradition holds that during the war, a Confederate bushwhacker was killed, and his skull hung from a tree, the death tree, as a warning. Civil War historians confirm that beheadings in the region were not unusual. No contemporaneous documentation of this specific incident has been found. What is documented? The story has been told continuously here for over 150 years. According to local tradition, the only way to lift the resulting curse is to find the skull and bury it or burn it on holy ground. But as Avila's population has declined, the knowledge of which tree the death tree was has gone with the people who remembered. The curse cannot technically be lifted. Not because the story is definitive, but because the information needed to end it is simply gone. Number 11. The Hornet Spook Light, Newton County, Missouri. For more than 100 years, an orange ball of light has appeared on a 4-mile stretch of road near the Oklahoma-Missouri border, known locally as the Devil's Promenade. It ranges from baseball to basketball in size. It moves east to west down the road center. It hovers. It splits. Multiple witnesses report it passing through closed vehicles. In the 1940s, U.S. Army Major Sherd of Camp Crowder stationed a car 10 miles to the west, flashed its headlights at observers at Spooklight Road, and confirmed they could see the signal. His conclusion reflected car headlights refracting across the terrain. The Missouri Chamber of Commerce later ran a 1969 press release claiming scientists had found no explanation for the phenomenon. That was a false statement. Chambers of Commerce from 3 states had been promoting the spook light as a tourism draw for decades. Here's the detail that does not resolve cleanly. Journalist Paul W. Johns found no printed reference to the light before 1926, the same year Route 66 opened and gave distant headlights a straight line to travel. But a pamphlet titled The Ozark Spook Light was reportedly published in 1881 before automobiles existed. No copy of that pamphlet has ever been found. Whether it existed remains disputed. The road is publicly accessible. Whatever the Army proved or did not prove, the light was there before his investigation and has been there since. Number 10. Norfolk Lake, Baxter County, Arkansas. Before 1944, the North Fork River ran through a working agricultural valley in Baxter County. Congress authorized Norfolk Dam in 1938. Construction began in 1941. The lake filled in 1944. 6 communities went under: Henderson, Elizabeth, Custer, Hand, Jordan, and Heron. Approximately 400 residents abandoned their homes. Some landowners were not fully compensated. Before the water rose, at least 2 cemeteries, one in Custer, one in Heron, were exhumed and relocated to higher ground. They now share a single burial ground called the Custer-Heron Cemetery. The project arrived during the Depression. During 1940, several hundred small farms in Baxter County had already been abandoned and left in foreclosure. The Corps of Engineers needed land from people who had almost nothing left to hold on to. Wartime material shortages then meant the spillway gates arrived late. The lake overtopped its temporary bulkheads at least twice in April 1945. Below the surface of Norfolk Lake, the valley floor holds the foundations of all 6 communities. Their names survive only as cove designations. The fish hatchery below the dam now produces more than 500,000 pounds of trout annually. The families who left did not come back. We are 8 entries into this list. If any of the numbers, 6 towns for 1 dam, 51 people, and 60 signatures, a law protecting a creature science hasn't confirmed, landed differently than you expected, drop a thumbs up and tell us which one in the comments. 9 entries left. Number 1 involves 42. Number 9, Tonka Castle, Camden County, Missouri. Robert McClure Snyder was a wealthy Kansas City businessman who purchased more than 5,000 acres of Ozark wilderness in 1903. He hired European stonemasons to build a castle on a 250-foot limestone bluff above a natural spring. The design belonged to Kansas City architect Adrian Van Brunt. The stone was quarried on-site. In October 1906, 1 year into construction, an automobile struck Snyder on a Kansas City boulevard. His obituary described it as one of Missouri's first car accidents. His three sons finished the castle in the early 1920s. It served briefly as a retreat, then as a summer hotel. In 1929, the Depression arrived. In 1931, Bagnell Dam created Lake of the Ozarks and backed water up to the spring below the bluff. The Snyder family sued Union Electric and settled for $200,000. On October 21, 1942, a spark from a fireplace caught the wooden roof shingles. The interior gutted, only the stone walls remained. The castle was widely assumed to be fireproof. The walls were limestone. Nobody fireproofed the roof. The builder never moved in. The sons finished it. The Depression weakened them. The fire emptied it. The walls have been falling slowly ever since into a lake that did not exist when the first stone was cut. Number 8. Smallett Cave, Douglas County, Missouri. Something taps in a cave in the remote hollows of Douglas County. The sound is most consistent in autumn and winter, when water moves through the limestone. It comes from inside the cave or just near the entrance, depending on who is describing it, and it has been heard near this spot since at least the late 1800s. In 1967, a researcher named Walter Darrell Haddon published a formal study through the Kinfolk Press, The Headless Cobbler of Smallett Cave. The factual basis documented in that book: during the Civil War, a Union-sympathizing shoemaker named George Evans reportedly moved his cobbling operation underground to hide from Confederate forces. According to the tradition, he was eventually found and beheaded. Hayden concluded the tapping sound was most likely dripping water. Reported deaths near the cave were unfounded or unconnected. He could not explain the red floating light that members of the Sellers family who have owned the farm since the 1800s reported seeing approach the cave repeatedly, or why dogs sent in by hunters came out quickly. The apparition in this legend is not described as a figure with a missing head. It is described as a figure with shoes hanging where the head should be. The tools of the trade became the identity in the curse. The cave sits on private land. Nobody is going back in to check. Number 7. Dogpatch, USA, Newton County, Arkansas. The roller coaster was called Earthquake Magoon's Brain Rattler. Garbage cans were replaced with mechanical pigs, goats, and wild hogs. Signs read, "Please feed the trash eaters. They gets hungry, too." The park opened in 1968 in a narrow Arkansas canyon themed around Al Cap's Lil Abner comic strip. At its peak, it drew close to 1 million visitors per year. Then the owners borrowed against Dogpatch assets to fund a ski resort. The ski resort failed, leaving $7 million in bank loans. The park changed hands multiple times. Final season, 1993. A 2002 eBay listing with a $1 million minimum bid attracted no buyers. In 2015, 3 buildings burned in what Newton County officials called a suspicious fire. In 2017, a man named David Hare signed a lease to develop the site as a resort, collected thousands of dollars in public reservations, and disappeared, owing $29,000 in back rent. For 30 years after closing, vines consumed the roller coaster tracks. Trees grew through the pavement. Raccoons nested in the ticket booths. In 2020, Bass Pro Shops founder Johnny Morris bought the 400-acre property for $1.2 million and locked the gates. 30 years of nature, one missing grifter, then a billionaire with a padlock. Number 6. Marley Woods, Wayne County, Missouri. The location does not appear on any public map. That is deliberate. Marley Woods is the name coined by ufologist Ted Phillips, one of the foremost researchers of UFO physical trace cases. Incidents where unidentified objects left physical evidence on the ground. He named the location after the Dickens character because the phenomena there seemed like Marley's ghost to be trying to communicate something. The area is believed to be in south-central Missouri near Piedmont. Precise coordinates have never been published. The landowners allowed research only on the condition that the location remained undisclosed. In 1973, physicist Dr. Sachs, Harley Rutledge of Southeast Missouri State University, spent several hundred hours observing the area using RF spectrum analyzers and Quastar telescopes, following a sustained wave of regional UFO sightings. His published finding: the lights he documented behaved in ways that defied known physics. Researcher Thomas Ferrario documented a couple on the property who were pushed violently to the ground by an unseen force. The husband was hospitalized with a blood clot. Neither spoke publicly about the incident. One woman who grew up nearby described playing, as a child, with basketball-sized balls of white light that emerged from the woods and landed in her palms. Her mother and grandmother said they had done the same thing. Marley Woods may be the only reported paranormal hotspot in the United States that never became a tourist attraction. Not because the stories faded, but because the people who live there made the researchers promise to keep it quiet. Number 5. Monte, Benton County, Arkansas. William Hope Harvey believed civilization was collapsing. He was a lawyer, a silver mine operator, and a pamphleteer whose 1894 booklet Coin's Financial School sold over 1 million copies in its first year, earning him the nickname Coin. His advocacy for free silver influenced William Jennings Bryan's 1896 presidential campaign. After Bryan lost, Harvey came to Arkansas. In 1900, he purchased 320 acres, 5 miles southeast of Rogers, renamed the community Monte, combining French for mountain and an Osage word for water, and built what were described as the world's largest log hotels, Missouri Row and Oklahoma Row, each 300 feet long, designed by architect A.O. Clark. He imported gondolas from Italy and hired gondoliers to pull guests across a custom lagoon from the rail depot. He promoted Monte as the only resort in America where the gondolas meet the train. In 1931, Harvey's Liberty Party held its presidential nominating convention at Monte's amphitheater. It was the only presidential convention ever held in Arkansas. Harvey finished 6th. He had already begun constructing a massive stone pyramid in the late 1920s, designed as a time capsule for the civilizations that would inherit a collapsed world. He sent letters to wealthy men, describing each one as the most important letter ever written. No one responded. The money ran out. Only the amphitheater, intended as the pyramid's entrance, was completed. Harvey died at Monte in 1936, buried in a 40-ton concrete vault on the property. When Beaver Dam construction began in 1960 and the lake rose, the Corps of Engineers needed to move the vault. The first truck was not strong enough. In drought conditions in October 2024, the amphitheater surfaced. Every investigation since the 1960s has confirmed the same thing. There is nothing inside it. Number 4. Old Lynn Creek, Camden County, Missouri. Lynn Creek became the county seat of Camden County in 1855 after a cholera epidemic killed most of the population of the previous county seat. It was a steamboat port on the Osage River, courthouse, churches, hotels, schools. The town had been there since 1841. In 1929, Union Electric Company of Saints Hat, Louis began acquiring property in the Osage River Valley. The goal was Bagnell Dam, a reservoir large enough to generate electricity for the state. The project employed 4,000 men on any given day, more than 20,000 across its course. The Depression had eliminated most other work. The company offered fair market value. The residents of the valley were rural, dispersed, and, in a detail that a later historian would note, entirely without organized civic institutions capable of mounting a legal challenge. They picked the perfect spot, that historian observed, because the local population was not organized. Construction began August 8, 1929, finished 22 months later. Before the water rose in early 1931, most of Lynn Creek's buildings were demolished. The wooden churches were burned. The county seat was moved to the newly constructed town of Camdenton, with Union Electric paying for the new courthouse. 2 years after the lake opened, the man who had helped broker the land deals, Walter P. Cravens, was convicted of fraud and imprisoned. Everything that had been Old Lynn Creek is now approximately 40 feet underwater. The Lake of the Ozarks has over 1,100 miles of shoreline today. There is a local story that you can still hear the old church bell from below the surface. The modern town of Lynn Creek sits on higher ground nearby, population 216. None of its residents were alive when the water rose. Number 3. Rush, Arkansas, Part 1. The Wrong Metal. 3 men came to Rush Creek in the early 1880s following stories of lost Native American silver mines. John Wolfer, Bob Setzer, and J.H. McCabe searched the hills. In 1886, they built a rock smelter along the creek to process what they believed was silver ore. In January 1887, they fired it for the first time. Green fumes poured from the stack. Zinc oxide, not silver. They had found zinc. At the time, zinc was used for brass, doorknobs, bullet casings, musical instruments. The deposit turned out to be significant despite not being what anyone wanted. 10 mining companies eventually operated 14 mines in the Rush district. The largest, the Morning Star Mine, pulled a 13,000-pound zinc nugget from the earth and shipped it to the 1892 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, where it won blue ribbons. When World War I began and armies needed brass for ammunition, zinc prices skyrocketed. The Rush Creek mines became the center of Arkansas's zinc industry. Between 1914 and 1917, the valley held 2,000 to 5,000 residents. In 1916, Rush incorporated as a city and was recognized as the most prosperous place per capita in Arkansas. The wrong metal had become the right metal at exactly the right moment in history. Then the war ended. Number 2. Rush, Arkansas. Part 2. The Long Emptying. The armistice came in November 1918. Zinc prices fell within months. Every company that had expanded to meet wartime demand had no buyers. The closings came one after another. Workers left the way they had arrived quickly and without ceremony. Investors tried to revive Rush through the 1920s. Imported zinc undercut them. In 1958, someone organized the Rush Creek Mining Company on the premise that zinc would be essential to rocket construction. The space race needed Ozark zinc, or so went the argument. The rocket builders did not need Ozark zinc. The post office, the last institution keeping Rush on any official map, closed in the mid-1950s. Remaining residents drifted away into the 1960s. In 1972, when Rush was included in lands acquired for the Buffalo National River, it was formally recognized as a ghost town, standing structures, 0 residents. Rush is the only true ghost town, by that definition, between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. The Rush Historic District was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1987. The mine openings are gated but visible. The gates are designed to block people while allowing bats to pass. A cemetery from the 1880s greets you at the entrance. Nobody who left came back. Number 1. The Crescent Hotel, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Stone walls, 4 stories. A Victorian Gothic face rising above the limestone bluffs of Eureka Springs. Built in 1886 for $294,000 by Irish immigrant stonemasons, brought in specifically for the stonework. Wide verandas, views of the Ozark Hills in every direction. There is a room called 218, and local legend holds that one of those stonemasons, a man named Michael, fell to his death during construction, landing where that room now sits. The front door is open, the dining room is serving. Rooms are available tonight. There is also a morgue in the basement. In 1937, a man named Norman Baker purchased the Crescent for $75,000. Baker was a vaudeville performer, a former radio broadcaster, and a con man who had already been expelled from Iowa for running a fraudulent cancer clinic. He arrived in Eureka Springs, spent $50,000 on renovations, painted the hotel interior in garish colors, lavender was his favorite, and moved 140 patients from Iowa to Arkansas. He had bulletproof glass installed in his office. He kept 2 submachine guns within reach. His cancer treatment consisted of injections of corn, silk, red clover, watermelon seeds, water, and carbolic acid. Carbolic acid is toxic when swallowed. Postal inspectors estimated the hospital cleared approximately $500,000 in a single year. Patients came from across the country. Many of them were dying, end quote. They paid thousands of dollars for something that killed them faster. Baker moved the sickest patients to a wing with boarded-up windows and steel doors locked from the outside. He built a morgue in the basement. Nurses moved the bodies out at night. He was convicted of mail fraud in 1940 and served 4 years in federal prison. Historians have confirmed at least 42 documented deaths during his 2 years of operation. They believe the true count is higher. Records from only one of the 5 mortuaries Baker used could be recovered. In April 2019, a landscape worker digging behind the hotel found glass specimen jars buried in the soil. Archaeologists from the Arkansas Archaeological Survey excavated the site. Some jars still contained tissue samples in clear liquid that had yellowed to brown over 80 years. The wax seals had held after 8 decades underground. A bone saw came up, 16mm film reels. Norman Baker died in Miami in 1958. He had cirrhosis. He had cancer. The hotel is open tonight. You can book a room. Room 218 is available. The Ozarks produced one true ghost town, 6 communities drowned under a single dam, and a functioning hotel where a con man ran a fraudulent cancer operation for 2 years before anyone stopped him. My pick is Monte, because a man who sent letters calling each one the most important letter ever written and received 0 replies still built the gondolas. What surprised you most? What did we miss? Subscribe if you want more of this.